Hello and welcome to the Preferred Contractors podcast. We give you actionable steps to grow your contracting business. I'm your host, Jordan Harrison. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about sales, communication, understanding how to build meaningful relationships in business, and the fact that it's so difficult, especially when you're starting out, because many of the people are focused on revenue only because they need to pay the bills. So obviously, if you want to go long-term in business, you've got to think about relationships first. So we're going to talk about that today, and the ability to communicate that. And of course, creating a sales process is going to be crucial to actually growing your business. So today we have someone that can do exactly that. We have Jonathan Buhidar. I said it right there. Is that right?
Yeah,
I got it right. Owner of Loyal Home Services out of San Antonio, Texas. This guy sells at least, I think, 2.7 million out of his van alone, which is insane. And of course, credit to his ability to obviously communicate, build relationships, and of course, sell his products and services. So I am extremely pumped to dig into this because it's somebody that's, in the field every day, actually doing the work. So it's going to be super helpful for everybody. So Jonathan, man, welcome. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So talk real quick. Just give some background on yourself. What got you into HVAC? What helped you learn the skills to kind of build Loyal Home Services to where it's at now?
Pretty much, I got brought into it through the Boy Scouts of America. I was a junior adult leader of a Boy Scout troop. One of the dads owned his own AC company. He pulled me and another guy aside, said, "Hey, I like your leadership skills. Can I go ahead and offer you a summer job?" Never thought I'd be doing it for 29 years. And here I am today, and one of the master techs out here in San Antonio. So feels good, man. I was always taught you'll always have a job and you'll never go hungry. And that's exactly how it's been.
Yeah, I believe it. So you're in Boy Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout. Did you make it all the way through?
Yes, sir. Eagle Scout and Vigil, the Order of the Arrow.
I did Order of the Arrow as well. Yeah, I always forget about that. But I remember this. I still remember the ceremony when the induction and stuff happened, and going to do the retreat.
Yeah, the tap out ceremony. Yeah.
Yep, I remember that was fun. I was like, "Wow, this was cool." Like I'm in some secret organization at the time. But man, I still have that stuff sitting in the attic too.
Yeah.
So let's get into hiring employees and getting started with the sales training side of things. So when you do hire a new employee, what do you focus on first when you're getting them trained up?
A lot of it's their comfort with being with customers and talking to customers. I mean, your number one thing, a customer is not going to buy from you if they don't trust you. So if I can instill to these guys, hey, keep it honest, keep it loyal, build your rapport with that customer, and you'll always have a customer. They're not buying from the company, they're buying from you. And if I can also set them aside and kind of teach them the way that I grew up in the industry and kind of mold them to another me, that's even better,
And the fact that you said focus on customer first, like relationships, I think that's harder for anybody else. I feel like some people focus on I don't know. To me, it feels like they focus more on all right, you got to make sure here's how you do the work. Yeah, that's got to come to it. But at the end of the day, like you said, if you can't have a conversation with somebody, you can't communicate with them. That's going to be, you're not going to make it far. It's a service-based industry, right?
Yeah. Well, and you got to remember, you're in their castle. You're in their home. So the last thing they want is a guy that stinks and, just not ethical, just standing in their home while their kids are watching or anything like that. Let's say that the husband's at work and it's just the wife, and she's very uncomfortable with having a strange male in her home. You've got to make them feel comfortable. Yeah, the numbers are going to come when the numbers come, but if you don't have a database, you don't have work.
Exactly. And it's funny you say that. We had our hot water heater get replaced. I wasn't home. It was all my wife. And they sat on our couches. They screwed up our floor. They messed up our door. They're like, "Well, we can only do this if we mess it up, but then we can't fix it." And I'm like, but they did all this stuff without me being home. And they convinced my wife that it was all okay. And that was rough. Like I gave them a horrible review because there was zero communication. They were disrespectful to stuff in my home. And yeah, like I stood by it. They didn't do anything to correct it either. That was what was crappy.
Yeah, and that's the shitty part of the industry. Everybody, doing the house calls and stuff like that. A lot of people have been through that experience. So you walk in the door and you can you give them the wow factor. It's a completely new thing. They're never going to forget it.
Yeah. And I'll say this, it was funny yesterday morning. Went to had a busy day, and when he went to open the garage door, it wouldn't open. Come to find out, the spring at the top popped. Yeah, it's a 30-year-old garage door. So spring popped, and I was like, crap. So next year I'm like, oh, here we go. I've got to find a contractor to come out and do this because I don't have time. Like I can figure it out, but I don't have time. And luckily we found a company here that I called them at 8:30, super nice on the phone, scheduled for the afternoon. They called me within 30 minutes, said, hey, our first appointment canceled. Can we come take a look at it now? Sure. And they came out, they explained everything. They were super friendly. And they explained the whole process to me and my wife and got it knocked out in less than an hour. So before noon, garage door was fixed. That was customer service.
And it was all taken care of. See, and that's the beautiful part of it is when you can instill employees to do that kind of stuff and mimic. For me, I want the same experience if I'm there or if one of my guys is there. Doesn't matter who from the company is there. As long as they have the same experience, that's the consistency I want for Loyal Home Services.
100%. 100%. So if you were to teach somebody your sales process, to me, anybody else, what would that look like? So I know you work a lot on the rapport side first, but let's go through the sales process. So how would you teach that to somebody who's brand new in your company to make it fit your values?
The biggest thing is going through my checklists. So I want to make sure that these guys know exactly what I want on that paperwork, because if I review the paperwork, I want to know, okay, what was offered, what was talked about, what were the issues, and what were the needs, not the wants. What was the needs? Wants are good. Don't get me wrong. You can have wants, but I want to know what the customer needed. And that's first and foremost. So if they stick by the checklists that I've built, if they go through the motions of building the rapport with the customer and everything else is going to fall in line. The work is the work. The work's never going to change. But the sales process and, building that communication with the customer is key.
So where do you think other companies screw this up? Like, because you got the ones out there that just they can't, they can do it, but they can't teach it. Where do you think they mess up?
Not hiring either the right trainer for the job or not being consistent with their guys to teach them the job, or not necessarily the job, but teach them the focus of here's how we want the paperwork done. If you're going electronic, these are the modules we want to use in order to perform this job. If you're going paper, then okay, here's my checklist. This is how I'm going to build my ticket. This is how I'm going to build my options, and get them comfortable with it. My biggest thing that I love doing every Tuesday morning, I sit the guys down and I've got about a handful of customers, my physical customers that I've built a rapport with that they're not just my customers, they're friends now. And I basically tell them, hey, come to my shop. You're going to do some role playing with my guys, and I want you to stump them. I want you to stump them as much as you can, and throw ringers at them, everything else, every kind of objection you could possibly think of on something on your home, and let's see how they act. And some of the new guys are like fucking deer in headlights. They just sit there and I'm like, hey, calm down. I think it's harder for the guys to do it in front of their peers rather than doing it in front of physical customer. because they see their peers every day. They don't see these customers every day.
Yeah. Well, and even then, I mean, I think I think some people just don't take into account that the sales side of things is got to be practiced and rep, even though you have to be natural in your conversation. I remember doing door to door B2B sales for like a month. It's not my thing, but I did it for a month. But I remember us repping for like an hour in the morning before we went out. We were selling like credit card processing, which was horrible. To walk into 60 businesses a day to everybody to go get out. You're like, oh my God, this is terrible. I don't know how the door to door, guys do in the roofing industry or solar, but like that was hard to get rejected like 60 times a day. But but the rep side and actually having the conversation, be able to take a breath and go and listen, I guess, would be being actively listening and addressing those needs. I feel like sometimes on the sales side, it's like what you're thinking actively, what's the next thing I got to say, instead of what are the customers saying and how do I need to respond to that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you don't listen to your customers and you just throw a bunch of shit at them, I can do the technical part of it all day long. But when you're explaining it to the soccer mom, she don't know what the hell a flux capacitor is and a time warp and all this other bullshit. She just knows my AC unit ain't working.
Yeah, it's hot as hell in the house. It's 90 degrees outside. Fix it.
And if she's hot, she don't want to hear you. She just wants you to fix it.
Yeah, I don't care. Just do it. Tell me what's it cost. I swore I did that yesterday at the garage door. I'm like, look, I don't have time. We've got too many events going on this weekend. Just tell me how much it is. How long is it going to take you to fix it? And they're like, 45 minutes, X amount of dollars. Perfect. Just do it. They're like, oh, wow, that was easy.
Yeah, exactly. Slammed up.
Yeah, boom, done. So when it comes to, and we'll talk Laura Home Services in specific because you do a great job with building rapport. So how do you create a customer experience with your company that really kind of outshines your competitors and keeps those repeat customers?
I honestly, I keep it real. I'm not the guy to fluff it and and I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. That's my biggest thing and I think that's where a lot of people mess up is they overpromise way too much and they underdeliver when the job is done. So whatever I talk to you about, whatever I tell you, whatever I instill we're going to do it. And if we don't, guess what? I'm going to show up personally and I'll take care of it because I do work in the field every single day. I'm not a desk guy. I will drive myself nuts if I sit behind a desk. So I am in a truck every single day running calls just like my guys. And if they run into an issue where they can't figure something out or, God forsake, the job goes haywire and they need help, they know all they have to do is jump on the phone with me and I'm there, And I think that's one of the biggest things with a lot of owners is they don't want to get hands-on. Say, oh, well, I'll hire somebody to do that for me. It's like, well, that's your name. That's your name, your business, your license is on the line there, so get out there and do it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. When I had my AC installed, probably it's almost 3 years now. Anyways, when they installed it, we went from like the Mercury switch, single stage system, 20 something years old, to like it was undersized and everything for this house. So I upgraded and wanted a better, thermostat, everything. And the guys came in, they installed it. Like now you're going to see your power bill drop like, I don't know, $50 a month to $75 a month. I'm like, cool. First 2 months, it went up $75 a month. About lost my mind. I called them. I was like, and I didn't spend, 12 grand or whatever to have a system raise my power bill and still not heat the house, cool the house the same. And, and I'm in Alabama, you're in Texas. So the heat is pretty similar. And so but luckily the owner came out 5 times to my house until they solved the problem and fixed it.
Yeah.
And
that's crucial, man. That shows, when customers, because I don't tell customers, hey, I'm the owner,
oh, yeah.
I just get out there and they think I'm a normal technician. I don't look 40 years old, so they think I'm some, 28-year-old, 30-year-old kid when I walk in there, and when I hand them my business card at the end of the call and they look at it and they're like, "Oh, you're the owner?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." They're like, "Well, why are you here?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, you had an issue. You wanted it taken care of. Did we satisfy your issue? Did we take care of your problem?" "Well, yeah." "Okay, cool. Great. If you don't mind, will you leave me a 5-star review? And if you're happy with the services, this and that, I'll send you the link. You're more than happy to go on there and do it if you want. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't."
Yeah. Hugely important. Hugely important. So how do you handle the customers that are not happy? Which, how do you go through that?
Well, I mean, I go through and make sure the job is complete and fixed. And then you got to walk a fine line with that one. Is it the price that they're not happy with, or is it the service? Because a price is a price. I mean, I'm not going to drop my pants for work because they're not just paying for the work, they're paying for the knowledge. They're paying for, our time being out there. One, doing it right so that they don't have to have another contractor come out, and then you kind of judge it with them. Is it a price issue, or is it an experience issue? If it's an experience issue, I try to mend it as much as I can with me being there and have kind of given them a better experience. Now, if it's a price issue, maybe I'll give them a maintenance program for 2 years on top of whatever for free. Essentially, you're just giving them a piece of paper. You're not giving them, you're giving them something of value, but you're not overcharging for services that weren't done.
Right.
And because it's a free service, you're still allowed back in that door. You still have a customer. Now, if they use it, they're going to use it. If they don't use it, when it comes time, have the girls reach out and say, "Hey, we gave you this service for 2 years. We just want to know if we can come back out there and at least take a look at the machine, see if you're going to have any problems coming for the next season coming up." And you're back in the door.
Yeah. And it's the follow up there is important. I think some people miss that. It's like, all right, so we gave them the free maintenance program. Some people are like, well, I don't want to, unless they're going to call me, I'm not going to call them. But that follow up to say, hey, we'll come back out and take care of it. I don't think people realize that could be a referral. That could be them, them adding on to their services or tacking on something different or upgrading to something else, right? Because people think, well, I got rid of them. They're unhappy customer. They're okay with that value exchange. But at the end of the day, like now you're back in their home, like you said, and you next thing you're like, hey, these people, I actually like these people now. They took care of me. They even called me and followed up with me for a free service they added on to take care of my previous problem. Now I'm going to refer them to Betty Jo Sue and everybody else in my neighborhood, right?
I always instill in my guys, you can have the best service and tell one person. You can have the worst service and tell 10.
Yeah. And it's in the negativity in the world, that's the hard part. Like, especially for a local owned business, right? McDonald's can screw up a million times, but people keep going back. But a local business screws up one time, and it's like people don't give them another shot. So I feel like y'all are at a disadvantage over anybody else.
Yeah. I was at a call yesterday, and I've been to this call 2 or 3 times. And when I pulled up to the house, I was like, "Oh, I remember these people." Got out, and I don't do plumbing. I have a guy that I sub plumbing to, and when I got there, um, the lady stopped me like right at the front door. She was like, "We don't care about the air conditioner right now. We want to know if you do plumbing." I was like, "I'm not a plumber." I was like, I can dabble with it, and I know enough to get me in trouble." I was like, "But what's going on?" She's like, "Well, we had a non-licensed plumber out here that drained or flushed out our water heaters." And she was like, "And now I've got hot water spraying on the side of the house." So I was like, "All right, well, let me at least take a look at it." Got up in the attic, found the water heaters. The guy had maxed out the gas valves. I mean, I'm talking to very hot. One of them was about to become a bottle rocket. I mean, the TMP was so hot on that thing that you couldn't even touch it. So I'm like, I called my plumbing buddy. I'm like, "Hey, I got this going on." I referred him. I'm like, "But for now, I'm going to shut the water off. I'm going to drain the water heater." I didn't have to do that. But to these people, I saved their house from blowing up. Gas lines rupturing, and I mean they didn't care what I had to do to the AC unit, because I didn't charge them for the plumbing stuff because I'm not a plumber. I just, like I said, I know enough to get me in trouble. But I kind of took care of that situation for him. Said, hey, don't worry about it. I got a plumbing guy. He'll be out here this afternoon. He'll fix it the right way. And he's fully licensed, master plumber. He's the owner of the company, just like I am. He'll take care of you. Dude, I got one of the best reviews from that lady last night. It finally came in about 10 o'clock. But I mean, it was like a damn novel on there. But and she flat out told me, she was like, I'm gonna blast you all over Facebook. So I'm gonna put you on some Bulverde platform that they have for contractors and all kinds of stuff. But that's real life. That's a real person.
Yeah, we're just being at service, right? Remembering that you're a service-based business, so you're there to serve people.
Mhm.
And like Gary Vee says all the time, you got to want to give with zero expectation. And
Exactly.
that's hard. That's hard for a lot of people.
Well, and like I told her, I was like, honestly, I only did it because she was like, well, just let us know how much you're going to charge us for doing that. I was like, I just would have wanted the same respect to somebody who was in my home that had the knowledge that I did. I was like, so don't worry about it. I'm not charging you for anything. I'm charging you for the AC stuff. I was like, but the plumber can come out here and take care of what you need from the plumbing side. Just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And they were, I mean, both of them, you could just kind of see the relief off their face immediately.
Yeah. Shoot, I'm not a handyman by any means. I've done some flooring and stuff here and there, but even I know not to crank up the water heater that high.
It was unreal. I literally thought that thing was going to blow up.
Golly. Well, as we're wrapping up here to the 30-minute mark, I want to ask you a couple more questions if you don't mind. So for the guys that are starting out, they are the one-man show or maybe one or two people. I'm curious to know, at what point in time in your business did you feel comfortable to hire somebody and train them as you grew? I know you're still in the truck, which everybody's got different philosophies there, but when you're ready to hire and you got to that point, what was there anything specific that made you feel comfortable, or you're like, you know what, I just need somebody in the field?
Honestly, for me, I'm a people person. I respect people. I respect their time, their knowledge, especially if I'm going to sink enough time with them to train them up. The last thing I want to do is train somebody and then have them say, oh, well, see you later. I'm going to go work for Joe Schmo that pays me more. For me, keep your guys happy. When it does come time to hire, you got to make sure you have enough cash flow to keep that guy in your truck happy. Everybody knows the AC industry, the wintertime gets slow. And that's the worst time for AC guys, because guess what? They are going to go look for work, whether it's side work or working for somebody else. They need a paycheck. So whether I need a guy to restock my vehicles or clean the shop or whatever, keep them busy. They've got a life just as much as I do. So that's my biggest thing is when I brought people on, I made sure I had enough capital to cover his wages for the year.
Yeah, and that's smart. And sometimes it's probably just as simple as that. Like, hey, you know what? You just have to be able to pay them year round and promise them minimum salary. And I think some people find that hard. So I don't know. I feel like they would find that difficult. And of course, it's just scary too. Like you're in charge of somebody else's livelihood now. And that's a hard step, but natural. So where do you see, and I don't know how much, growth you want to do or whatever, but so where do you see Loyal Home Services going in the next 2 to 3 years? What are your plans?
I mean, I want at least nine vehicles total, on the road, projecting 3.7 to 4 million,
Nice.
somewhere in there. And then honestly giving back to the community. That's been one of my biggest things. My daughter's 15 years old, and she's in the Future Farmers of America. And I support those kids 100%. Whether it's
buying feed for them for their animals, or helping some kids out that can't afford to buy an animal. That keeps that kid out of trouble. So if I can keep another kid off the street, getting in trouble, and having them put that effort towards raising a pig or raising a sheep or whatever the hell they want to do, I'll pay for it. I don't care. It's a write-off. It's a donation, but it's the company putting back towards the kids. Kids are the future.
Yep, I agree. I don't think I told you this. I was a band director for 12 years.
Oh, God.
Did I tell you that? No. So I taught band for 12 years. And my wife's still in education now. So in terms of kids are the future and education be important, wholeheartedly agree. And some people ask me like, well, why are you not doing anymore? I said, well, I have 2 little boys and I like to be able to take care of them. And as we know in the education world, financially, you're kind of capped out at some point, and you're always asked to do more work. So I now have flexibility to be with my kids. And to me, I still think education is usually important, although I don't agree with everything in it now. But it is changing because I do feel like there needs to be more of a connection with the trades. And the last school I was at, as a matter of fact, before I left, I pushed 3 kids into HVAC. They saw what I was doing, and I said, hey, they're like, hey, we know you talk with HVAC owners, whatever, like, how does that work? And so I said, well, here's a school here, here's a technical school, here's this here in this area. And here's some owners you could talk to so you can get into it. And so, cause I think it's important. And I've like, there's so much money that could be made and you could have a very good life in the trades that, it's almost been sort of it's not a mission, but it's starting to become to be where I want to connect the generation of the schools with contractors and letting them know that like there's a lot of money to be made, a lot of opportunity and a better life for you, that you don't have to go to college. You don't have to spend the amount of money I have right now on student loan debt to make a good life. So,
well,
awesome.
and that's huge. I mean, look at some of the kids now graduating from college, right out of college, and they can't find a job at all. But yet you got these other kids that are fresh out of trade school, and I'd rather hire one of them than a guy that's been in the industry for 14 years, because that's what I don't have to break any bad habits.
Exactly. No, I agree, man. Well, look, we've hit 30-minute mark, so I want to ask you this. I know you are big on training, and I know you're here to help those and others in the industry. So if somebody is listening, and I know we've got some listeners that are just starting out too, because they reached out and talked to me. For those who are just starting out and need help, they're really getting going in their HVAC company. What are you okay if if them reaching out to you to for some guidance, I guess, and some mentorship?
I'm absolutely fine with it, man. I literally sat on the phone last night till about 11 o'clock with one of my buddies that I worked with in Phoenix that I forget where he moved to, but me and him were talking on the phone last night and just going back and forth about, how I started with the home warranty groups, and he started with them, and he's like, oh, they're all shit. I'm like, well, you don't know how to build your tickets with them. And so we sat down and kind of hashed it out as far as how to build his tickets. He was like, dude, I never thought of this stuff. I'm like, well, it's just a matter of somebody teaching you how to do it and do it. So no, I don't mind at all. They can reach out to me. My cell phone number is 210-556-5244. Or you found me on Facebook, so you can find me on Facebook as well. Loyal Home Services has a Facebook as well. I mean, there's many different options you can get a hold of me, but feel free, man. I have no problems helping guys out.
Awesome, man. Look, I know you're in the field now, which is fun. I actually like the fact that we did the podcast this way. Sometimes I'm like, you should be at your computer. I'm like, nope, this is raw. This is you like, hey, I'm about to hop in the call and go help somebody out. So Jonathan, man, I appreciate it again. This was huge. There's a ton of stuff in there people need to hear. I'll put your information in the show notes on YouTube and the podcast channel as well.
Perfect, man.
I appreciate it. Well, listen, thank you guys again for listening to Preferred Contractors podcast. If you haven't already, hop into our Preferred Contractors community group where we give you a ton of actionable steps with marketing, business development, sales, branding, you name it, anything to help grow your business. It's all in there in the guide. So hop in there and check it out and network with other contractors who are struggling with the same stuff as you guys are. So thank you guys for listening again. Until next time.